we've got John Fussell here, so perhaps John, would you like to join us at the table?
So the centre.
John, there's okay, we've got the item number 22 on the agenda. Okay, so we've got a resolution in front of us, but we kind of wanted, after some discussion, to think about. Yeah, I don't know about that one. This one's come up as a third option, which I don't know if it. I mean, maybe it does the trick, I don't know. But what we're trying to do is to get the community board to get on with the consultation and engagement, and enable them to talk to the local community. The trouble around making a decision now around delegating, if there were, if the site involves a, sort of a park or reserve, then that triggers another process. And if the scope were to step outside the parameters of the aquatic facility strategy, I mean, there are issues in that I'd really like to have some focus on. So in a way, I was more leaning towards the idea of just delegating this and the initiation of community consultation and initial scope, and then start that. But that doesn't mean we have to wait till that's done before it comes back to us in the new year for a decision about what it is that we're going to delegate. We are going to delegate some decision making in this regard, but we want to make sure that we're delegating the right decisions.
And I suggest that we get a report back in the early new year with the rest of the process on it. Yeah. And that might entail, for example, once council's made a decision on the scope, then the community board can, say how that's done. So the concept design is, delegate that kind of thing. Yeah. So that we make sure that the network impacts aren't
So can we
changed.
Go back to the original one and just put 2, request staff to report back early in the new year on the elements of the decision making that can be delegated to the Linwood Central Heathcote Community Board. Yep. Eh? Yeah. Yanni.
Can I just seek clarification under number 1 that where it says recommendations reported back to council, that means at the end of the consultation and engagement process? It doesn't mean prior to us engaging and going out for community consultation that we have to come back to council first?
No. So
right. I think maybe it could just be...
So that council can have final sign-off on the site once we've done the consultation. Yeah. And the scope.
No, take out with recommendations reported back to council, take that out, and just put noting that community consultation is based upon the parameters, request staff to report back early in the new year on the elements of the decision making that can be delegated to the Linwood Central Heathcote Community Board. Because what we want to signal is we are going to delegate, but we just need a little bit more work around specifically what we delegate. Is that right? Cool. Phil.
I'm supportive of this. I just want to make sure that in fact the recommendations of what's decided around from the consultation, that in fact it's clear that that comes back to council too. And taking that out, I'm not so sure that it's there.
Well,
number 2,
we may well delegate the decision making around the site to the community board. But I mean, if a site involves a park or a reserve, then that's going to require some advice, because there's a secondary process, as we know very well from the South West Leisure Centre, that there's a secondary process that is triggered upon that decision.
So you're
but
really saying,
I'm quite happy with Linwood Central Heathcote making the decision about the site. It's the question around the scope and what happens if the site triggers another process, because there are some things we actually legally can't delegate.
It's also, if you just clarify, if you just read number 1, it's only delegating the initiation of the community process. It's not delegating the full thing, which I think
I appreciate that.
Number two will
give you that information.
Yeah, number 2, when it comes back early next year, will give you that process.
You won't be finished by the time we get number 2.
No.
Yep, Aaron.
Yeah, so there's a lot of ducks that need to be lined up here.
Wait, sorry.
Not just they initiate it and then have to report back, because actually you manage the consultation, if that's
So
your
change
concern.
initiation to the management of the community consultation.
Yeah.
The initiation. Or do you need initiation if you're managing it? No. The management of community consultation on a site and initial scope. Is that all right?
You could just say delegate
Delegate community consultation on a site. Yeah. Excellent. Right. Okay. Yanni moved, seconded. Sarah, did you have other questions? Yep. Oh, sorry, Aaron, I interrupted. Question.
That's all right. So I have a really huge question around our pools, all our pools going forward, that the ones that we currently have and being built gives us, because we only saw the aquatic facilities plan 2 days ago, and from that we haven't had any community conversations with the entire city over that strategy and the costs, because there's massive OPEX and CAPEX costs involved. And my question is around, is swimming a summer or a winter sport? And if it's mainly seen as a summer activity, then do all our facilities need to be indoor ones? Because that has massive rates implications, really, really big ones. And it's a conversation we've never had with the public in the city, and it's a conversation we should be having. And John, do we have that conversation coming up?
The timing, nature and extent of council's conversations with the community are council decision, not mine, so I'll dodge the answer to that. Perhaps what I can say is in the 1525 LTP as amended by the 1718 annual plan clearly says that this pool is on the schedule to be built, and council made a decision to proceed with the process. This is part of the process for planning and developing the pool, so we are in effect following council's decision from the annual plan. If council make any subsequent decisions in the 2018-28 long-term plan, that might have an impact, but right at the moment we've got a clear instruction to proceed, and this report and the intent of this recommendation really says proceed, and the board take a leading role within that.
I think the question is the council going to consult on the aquatics strategy? I mean, presumably it's in, I haven't seen it, so it's in draft form at the moment. So is there a consultation happening on that?
A consultation specific to that strategy isn't planned. The strategy informs the long-term plan, and council consults on the long-term plan. Every single aquatic facilities plan has only ever informed a long-term plan, and that's the vehicle for the consultation. No separate consultations provided for.
Okay, but when's it being released publicly then?
Haven't made that decision. We've had one councillor workshop. We're getting feedback from councillors, and those discussed with the Deputy Mayor the opportunity to represent it to the council and get some feedback on how, where and when.
And so we'll have a formal process where it will come to council, we'll sign it off, and it will go out for, I mean, it'll be in the public arena.
Certainly.
Before the LTP.
If that's council's wish, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
So,
But, okay, so I'm really struggling with this, and I'm struggling to support any swimming pool decision ever being made if we do not have an overall strategy for the city that the public agrees with. It's too much money. These pools are $20 million versus half that for outdoor pools, and the operating costs are way higher. We're going to have a lot more square meterage of pool with a higher operating cost and not as many users as what we've had in the past. It just does not make sense. We can't do it.
well,
Without talking to the
this
public.
is debate, not questions. Has anyone got a question? Sarah, Dion, Pauline? Oh, okay, Pauline.
Thank you. My question is about the budget for this, and I mean it's great to see this kicking off, and I'm really supportive. But is there any provision in here with the board to look at potential partnerships, and is there any provision in here to look at cost savings and bring that in under budget?
Yeah, the work done to date with the board has identified a number of potential partnerships, and one being with a sports club, rugby league sports club, on a location. So that subject has been covered, and yeah, it seems very probable that that will eventuate.
So that could see cost savings?
Too early to tell. One hates to promise these things and disappoint at a later date.
If some funding came in via a partnership, would that end up increasing the scope, or would we look at trying to bring cost savings?
Again, that's a matter for the council. There's the board have considered needs. The board have considered an outline scope. The board wish to talk with their community on that outline scope. The extent to which that changes through community consultation, I can't really preempt that, but personally, we do believe that the board are best placed to lead those discussions with their community.
Thank you. Sarah?
Thanks, John. Have you any idea, I mean, you've been overseeing sort of this pool stuff for many, many years now. How many times have we gone out and consulted with the community on the need for a pool in this area since it was first mooted in 2003? Any rough idea? I mean, every annual plan just about. And the council's made decisions over the last 4 years to put it on budget. We've consulted specifically on pools every time, and every time the council has decided to say yes.
That's not a question. You're actually contributing to the debate. Yeah. And
I said how many times have we consulted on it?
And it was not included in the consultation originally. It was added to the LTP by amendment passed at this council without a report. So just mentioning that. So
since it was first mooted in 2003.
Okay. Well, yeah. I don't know whether you go back as far as 2003, John.
The Aquatic Facilities Plan 2006 collated a number of instances of community consultation on a Linwood pool that happened before that. The idea and proposal for a Linwood pool has been a consistent theme since 2006.
Right. Dion?
Is the OPEX already built into the existing budgets?
Most of it. There is a gap between council's current provision and the provision needed to operate the entire proposed network, but the majority is, and it's in the proposed draft LTP.
Glenn?
Thank you, John. Just trying to go back again on the size and scope. Are there any limits to that, or what are the limits rather?
There's always limits. The biggest limit is need. What do you actually need? And then limits are site and affordability. And particularly in this case, compatibility with the rest of the network.
All right, so good decision, big one, but is there anything that can't be considered or which has to be ruled out?
They can't extend the budget.
No.
No. All of the recommendations are predicated by in line with the LTP amended by the annual plan, so that's a rider over everything.
Yep. Okay. Thank you,
David.
I support the general thrust of what's going on here, but I'd just like to ask you, in response to a question from Councillor Kewen a few moments ago about whether, you know, swimming is a summer-orientated or winter-oriented sport. And I thought I heard you say in a briefing the other day that in fact on a hot summer's day our use of indoor pools spike.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah, the vast majority of swimming happens indoors for a whole variety of reasons. We don't have a huge outdoor pool patronage in Christchurch, but we haven't focused on that provision.
Thank you.
Very good. Jimmy?
Just one question, especially we put on the paragraph 2. My question is regarding to the site consultation. I'm not sure if those site is outside of the reserve or park, whether we need to have, you know, after the site consultation, whether we need to do the kind of the review or change of the reserve reclassification.
Jimmy, that's why we're asking for staff to report back in the new year. We're not delegating that decision right now.
Yeah, but I just want to ask.
Yes, I know, but we've already said that if they choose a reserve or a park, there's another process that needs to happen.
But staff,
as you well know, because of Denton
but
Park.
staff cannot presume the consultation. After consultation, we know
but
whether
it doesn't
we're
presume
being reserved or
anything.
not.
It doesn't presume anything. They will report back to us in the new year before the consultation is finished.
Yeah. Okay.
Won't you, John?
Yes.
Thank you. Right. So, Pauline, another question? Or Yanni was first, and then... Have you got a question? Right. Okay, so Yanni, Pauline, Dion, Mike, Andrew.
Cool.
Jamie.
I think it's just really important to acknowledge that, as has been pointed out, that there has been a long-standing desire and need for this facility, and I suspect it may even go back prior to 2003. In fact, I remember Rod Donald actually advocating for this many, many years ago. So this goes back a long time, and I think it's timely just to reflect on the report that came out yesterday from the Salvation Army, which basically said the local community has a very proud sense of community and resilience, particularly since the 2011 earthquakes. However, the locals are concerned about crime and safety issues in the community, and they feel that many of the local children and young people were disengaged and did not have enough activities. So, you know, I think we can see in there that it reinforces the submissions that have been made through aquatic facilities reviews and plan developments from 2005 onwards, working parties that are being set up by the community board, and submissions to our annual and long-term plans. And I encourage you to consider the submissions we've heard from the local school principals about the need for a sense of urgency, particularly for the increased number of children that are in this in Linwood post-earthquake. So to me, there's a real strong need for this. It's something that has been repeatedly raised, and actually what we're talking about today is just getting on and engaging with our community about what the site should be and what the scope should be. And I can't see any reason why we shouldn't not delegate this to the community board to begin that process today. Many of the questions that have been asked are questions that can be addressed after this process has sought the community views. So I think that's really important. The other thing that I want to say is that although we're hearing that there's some negatives about this community, there's actually a lot of positives as well. You've got one of the most successful rugby league clubs in the city, if not the country, in the Linwood Kiers. They have openly said to us they are keen to work with us in partnership around the development of Linwood Park and their pavilion and their club rooms. So looking at what we've done with Wainoni Park, I can see a huge parallel around how you can actually create very successful complementary community facilities by working with groups. We should also acknowledge that the Linwood Ave School and Youth Town have done a fantastic community pool. Okay, it is only open during summer and it's an outdoor pool, but as an interim transitional process, It's been fantastic, training up locally based young people to get lifeguard skills to contribute to something positive to society and to that community. It's been a real success. Also the Life Festival, so there are positive things happening here, but this really, I think the importance of this is if we can get on and engage over the summer period when we have the positive things happening. That poll is probably opening, I think, January 8th. We've got the Life Festival held early in the new year, and a number of other community events. If we can get on and engage and give hope to this community that desperately needs it, that we are interested in what they think, we are interested in investing in their needs and their desires, then I think that would send an incredibly powerful signal to a community that, you know, is feeling forgotten and ignored. And it's not to say that that's the reality, but that's the perception. And I think today it's time we address that by moving forward with this process today.
Thank you. Pauline.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, look, honestly, this is a wonderful project for Linwood. It's really going to galvanise and bring the community together. Anything like this just brings people out of the woodwork. It gives them a purpose and a meaning to engage, and a lot of benefits come out just from that engagement alone. And as you all know, I'm pretty sure you know, that I'm highly supportive of community pools. And they're very, very different in purpose, size and scope than our big aquatic facilities. And they should be far, far cheaper to operate. So the Linwood Woolston Pool project began as a community pool. Now it's known as an aquatic facility. And now there seem to be a lot of added extras, such as a range of pools, facilities for performing, for art, for social gatherings, an outdoor kitchen, urban beach, with a $20 million budget. So my concern is that this facility does actually end up being a true community facility with appropriate operational costs for future ratepayers. And I'm sure it will if we do it right. My other concern is equitable in nature, and I can't help but think of the Edgware Pool project. So here we have a community who is rebuilding a facility they once had.
Pauline,
no, I'm moving to a point.
Pauline, please.
This has also been in the planning for 11 years, and their costing is probably going to come in under $5 million. So my question is, why are they not receiving some funding assistance from the council for the capital work?
Please, order. I don't like calling order, but you are out of order,
so
please.
Once again, I'm supportive of the Linwood Pool project, but I do advise caution in relation to the $20 million cost, and I ask that there be some oversight of this budget with savings to be found wherever possible. Thank you.
Dion.
I just want to go back to the state of the communities report that was released yesterday by the Salvation Army, and when I went and listened to the presentation and spoke to the team who did the report yesterday or afterwards, the Linwood community that they interviewed, they had a number of things. The top thing in their future aspirations for Linwood was this pool. There's already communities speaking about it. We've been talking about it since I've been elected. The pool was the top priority for the community from that, and that wasn't even led by the council. The second top priority was them to increase the Life Festival, which we just talked about. So it's really interesting. So Revitalise was there, and the revitalisation strategy for Linwood Village was their third top priority from the research that they did, and that was a lot of locals from Linwood. So it was really, really telling. I do hold concerns around budgets for aquatic facilities, and I share that through the concerns with a number of my colleagues, but this particular one, and through my thinking, is different. We spent some time in Auckland in March, I think it was, and looked at the Otahuhu pool, the community pool out there, and how that has actually really brought together one of the lower socio-economic areas of South Auckland, and the success that has had with the partnership with the councils there, the local board there, but also the community in terms of the help that they get from different agencies, and actually it's been really good. This one here has that partnership from the Linwood, the football? No, sorry, the league. So the league, the person who's in charge of that came to me yesterday, a couple of days ago, and said and reaffirmed their support to actually work with the council and work with the board to actually make sure that there's a facility that activates the entire Linwood Village, the Linwood Park area, and having Eastgate there, it's so close. So I really see a lot of positives with this, and I urge people to sort of let the board move forward with talking to the community about what the scope of that will actually look like into the future.
Mike?
Thank you. Previously, obviously, I've spoken quite often, actually, my concern around the amount of aquatic facilities we've been building and the operational costs of these, which obviously through the annual plan and previous long-term plans have been passed. And I find it, I just don't think it's appropriate for this item, we're trying to relitigate this pool. You know, this item is actually about delegating to the community board, and I 100% endorse delegating a project that this council has actually approved at the last annual plan. So I'm not too sure where the conversation has been going. I think it's off topic. I'd endorse as much delegation as we can to the local community board. It is their community, and they should be the ones responsible for leading the community and working with the community to get the right outcome.
Andrew?
I don't think there's any question about the social need for this project, and I don't think there's any question about the community expectation which has been created over what we've heard today. It's been quite a long period of time. I think it's important to note that what we are looking at approving today is entirely consistent with the review of the aquatic facilities strategy. It's entirely consistent with our annual plan budget that we put in place not even 6 months ago. And there are things that we've seen in the draft review of the aquatic facilities strategy which actually have made me more comfortable rather than less comfortable with this project, in terms of what's being proposed to be delivered for this community, which is unique to the needs of this particular community as well. And there's nothing in that strategy which makes me uncomfortable about the level of aquatic facilities we're delivering as a network across the city, particularly when you compare what we're proposing with other major cities in New Zealand, such as Wellington and Auckland. So I'm personally very comfortable with this. I'm pleased to see us get to a point where we're able to progress it. I'm impressed with the energy that has been shown by the councillors and the community board over their willingness to spend their summer holidays engaging with the community, and I think that can only land in a good place as well. So yeah, very pleased with what we're looking at today, and certainly look forward to that additional paper coming back in the new year so that we can look at further delegations to the community board, who clearly know this particular community and its needs very well.
Jamie?
Thanks. You'll recall that during the annual plan I voted against having this project go ahead in the immediate future. We don't need to rehash the argument there, but suffice to say this isn't the debate we're having today. So all I really want to say around this is that do you not believe that the community is best placed to determine what happens in their backyard? And I think very much so. Like I said, I think there's a bigger conversation that needs to be had around aquatic strategies and prioritisation. And you know what? Sometimes hard calls need to be made. And that's why, at the time, I wanted to move this down the prioritisation list. Difficult decision, yes. Though in this instance, I'll be supporting this because the council on the whole made a decision, even though individually I didn't agree with it at the time. And going forward with that decision, do you or do you not want to have the people that it directly affects involved at the heart of the decision making? And I think absolutely. So although I don't agree with the substantive decision around it, that's fine. Ensure that the community has a voice and they get the facility that they deserve.
Aaron?
Yeah, agree with a number of things that have been said. Totally support the community board delegation. That makes sense. I agree that this community needs a pool and deserves a pool, and it deserves a unique pool that sits well with the community. I grew up just down the road from here in St John Street, Woolston, and we used to bike past the Woolston pool to go to Centennial Pool. We didn't go to Kiwi 2 because you weren't allowed to jump off the diving boards. At Centennial you were, and so a lot of kids from my neighbourhood biked all the way to town to go to Centennial because that had something different about it. It was an outdoor pool and you're allowed to jump off the diving boards, including the 10 metre, and it was a great way to spend your summers. For me, this is about, I support the community board delegation, but I'm struggling here a little today when a couple of days ago we finally got our aquatic facilities plan, and earlier, post-quake, when there was the debate over where Metro Sport would go and Kiwi 2 getting its pool that's currently halfway through being built, one of the councillors sitting at this table would not vote for it because we didn't have an aquatic facilities plan that informed how we made our decisions. So I find it a little rich to be back here at the table when we're making decisions, or had made them, without having had that plan inform us. And to be whipping out $20 million pools all across the city, I find is pretty loose spending when we're having to put up rates year after year after year, and some people are really, really struggling. Every single community project we have across the city, every single facility, we should be looking to get as much value for money as we can. And if that means that we only have 6 indoor pools across the city, so be it. But let's make the outdoor ones really cool. I think all our community facilities, our libraries and halls.
Thanks, Sarah.
Like some others, I can't believe that we're having this debate again. It is a simple report on delegation. We've already decided to build the pool. We've already set aside budget. And this is the how we go about doing it, not whether we should do it. It's really, really clear that this community needs investment, and that this community board is best placed to be able to engage with the community on how best to do that. The council has been really clear about the budget. The council will, in all likelihood, sign off the scope so that the network isn't affected. But the community is the community board are the ones who talk to the community, know them well. We've been working on this for a really long time. The community have been expecting it since 2006. The fact that this pool was being planned was the reason that the Woolston outdoor pool was demolished. And in fact, outdoor pools don't do all of the things that we need as a city. They don't provide year-round swimming lessons so that our children can actually learn to swim and be safe in the water in our island nation. They don't provide a space over the colder seasons for the community to get together and connect, for teenagers to hang out and communicate with their friends. Outdoor pools don't do that. They're a few months over summer. They are fun. I enjoy them. But they don't have all the wider benefits that our community needs. When it comes to operational expenditure, we spend a lot, and we've talked about things like security cameras and things like that today, on operational expenditure in the lower socioeconomic areas of our city, picking up rubbish that's dumped at the side of the roads, those things, because the communities don't feel valued and they don't value themselves. When we invest in the community, we don't look at the cost, we look at the value and the wider benefits. That's the role of local government. If we were a private business, we probably wouldn't do it, but we're not. Our purpose is different to that, and that's why we need to do this. We need to get on with it now, and we need to get the report early in the new year, giving the full process and delegations.
David?
Thank you. Look, a range of speakers have highlighted the fact that we are essentially just delegating a process of consultation, and I fully support that notion. We've had our aquatic strategy. This pool obviously lines up well with it. And look, I can well remember in my early days on a community board in 1995 when Bob Todd was advocating for a pool in this area. He had been pushing for that pool for decades, and as other speakers have said, we have suffered a lot in our facilities post-earthquake. We are slowly getting back to some semblance. In that intervening period, we have lost a number of generations who have missed out on learn to swim, and I think we just need to focus on the fact that we are approving a consultation process here today which reinforces a decision by council that we will build this pool, and for me it's fulfilling a legacy that Bob Todd's been advocating now for, I can't remember how long, obviously since 1995 or earlier. So I'll fully support this motion.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried.